very good evening to you this 21st day of January 2019. Thank you so much for making time to join us in our top stories. Tonight, more arrests and arraignments in the Riverside driver Turk, and families commit to cooperate.
Watoto wetu jana imeonyeshwa hapa kwa TV, imepitishwa juu ya gazeti, na watoto hata tangu mwaka hiyo iliyopita ilishikwa mpaka saa hii kotini inaendelea.
Also tonight, new technology in firearm ownership as the gun battles continue on who should fire directives.
Everyone who is licensed to hold a firearm in Kenya, every civilian who's licensed to have a firearm, must now have this card. And we are not going back on this arrangement.
Plus, it is taking breaking doors and forceful action to get them to class.
Mzazi kama huyu amewacha watoto kwa nyumba. 1 week haonekani. Ajua watoto wanakula nini na ni wasichana au wawili wakubwa. What do you expect them to do?
Juzi kuna mtoto amelipia school fees. Alikuwa ameitwa Masi kule Ukabani. Mamake akatoroka. Shushu naye akamwambia aende kasi ya nyumba.
How nyumba kumi is bypassing negligent parents. And popular rapper Octopizzo is battling manslaughter accusations.
Vile walifanyana kutoka huku mpaka nje mimi sijui.
Wangefungia hapo kwa nyumba alafu waite polisi wakuja wachukue yeye.
Autopsy results are out even as some neighbors share what they saw.
NTV Tonight with Zainab Ismail.
Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondoa. Now, 3 young men in the list of most wanted terror suspects today surrendered to police in Isiolo County after their images were released by the police. The parents claim they're innocent and have been assisting the government with information since 2017 after being intercepted by the anti-terror police unit while crossing to Somalia. 4 more suspects were today arraigned in court in connection to last Tuesday's 14 Riverside complex terror attack. NTV's Seth Olale with the latest update on the progress of investigations.
The 4 terror suspects brought before court today are suspected to have facilitated the terrorists that executed the terror attack at the hotel and business complex on 14 Riverside Drive, killing 21 people. George Ndugu, Mukhtar Ibrahim, Isaac Hussein, and Sakina Mariam Abdallah now join the list of 5 other suspects who were arrested and taken to court on Friday, including Canadian, who was also charged by the Milimani courts. 3 persons, namely Ibrahim Ali Buyo, aged 19, Aden Hassan, and Mohammed Abdirahman Abdallah, aged 41, are the latest suspects in police custody. 19-year-old Ibrahim Ali Buyo and Aden Hassan were both arrested in Alinjugar within Fafi sub-county in Garissa, while Muhammad Abdirahman Abdallah was apprehended at Hagadera Market. The Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, ATPU, have so far recovered from the suspects 3 firearms, a Makarov ATM 3846 pistol with 1 magazine loaded with 8 rounds of ammunition, a new model Browning pistol with a magazine loaded with 15 rounds of ammunition, and a pistol loaded with 13 rounds of ammunition. Police are pursuing 9 most wanted suspects described as armed and dangerous. They include Violet Kemunto Omwoyo alias Khadija, presumed to be the wife of Ali Salim Gishunge alias Farouk. Others include Boru Adbi Bidu, Didu Mohammed Fugicha, Abdi Ali Kachora, Gaddafi alias Munene, Ramadan Wario Bonaya alias Rasho, a man only identified as Omari, and Hussein Adan Hussein alias Eto. Parents of Abdi Ali Kanchora, Boru Abdi Bidu, and Ramadan Wario Bonaya alias Rasho, living in Isiolo, say their sons are ready to surrender to the police but argue they are innocent and their lives are in danger.
Watoto hata tangu mwaka hiyo iliyopita ilishikwa mpaka saa hii kotini inaendelea. na hakuna kitu, hata ile kitu wameona naye, hata shahidi na kuja kuona kwa hiyo kotini hakuna, hata hiyo watu wameshika wenyewe wakuji.
Ilionyeshwa ndani ya TV wanted, unaona. Saa hiyo tu akasema mimi sina kitu chochote ndani, siogopi chochote. Leo akafika saa 7 hapa kwa serikali, akakuja baka kwa serikali, saa hii ako kwa antitera hapa.
So far, more than 15 people have been arrested and 30 others interrogated over the terror attack that left 21 people dead as police close in on returnees believed to be active in sleeper cells. Police spokesman Wino has confirmed that indeed number of accomplices are on the run, even as detectives seek to get information from some of the apprehended persons in a bid to arrest and prosecute those who are involved directly or indirectly in the 14 Riverside Complex terrorist attack. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
And 4 people were last night injured in an attempted attack on a Chinese road construction site in Shimbere, about 50 kilometers from Garissa town. Confirming the injuries, County Police Commander David Kerina, who was among the top security officials who visited the scene, said swift response by the police on receiving tips of the attack helped save lives. Now, according to terrified locals who spoke to the media on condition of anonymity, 8 hooded militants, all armed with AK-47 rifles, kidnapped a man from a nearby village and ordered to take them to the Chinese construction site camp. As they approached the camp, they allegedly started shooting indiscriminately, prompting the workers who were housed outside to fenced camp to scatter for safety. Police say security officers guarding the camp returned fire and in about 15 minutes were able to repulse the militants who fled to nearby thickets. Now, during the shootout, the wife of one of the security guards manning the gate was shot from behind and a bullet is said to be lodged in her shoulder. She was rushed to the Garissa County Referral Hospital where she is currently admitted and in stable condition. The other 3 were injured as they scampered for safety, including the husband to the injured woman. The police say they are pursuing the militants who are allegedly escaped on foot towards the Dab area.
Watu 8 ambao walikuwa wamejihami silaha kali ndio wameingia. Hiyo watu vile waliingia hawakufaulu. Askari ambao walikuwa tayari alert ndio walipata na walifukuzwa.
Nilisikia risasi zimeanza kulia na kusikia hizo risasi zikilia, mimi nilitoroka kuingia kwa msitu. Hata saa hii ndio nimekuja hapa.
And still on matters security, the members of the National Gun Owners Association will be the only ones exempted from carrying a special chipped card that the Ministry of Interior has introduced as an addition to documents needed by a licensed civilian gun owner. This will be the status quo until a case they have against the government is in court is hard and determined. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says the new card will be capture and contain all the information about the holder and the licensed weapon. Ken Mijungo reports that the use of the cards takes effect immediately.
It's just one of the measures taken by the Interior Ministry to curb the increasing number of firearms in civilian hands.
Good afternoon.
The chipping of the new cards will also separate the genuine firearm owners from those with fake license. This move coming barely 2 months after a new firearm licensing board was constituted.
Finger off the trigger. Whenever you pick a firearm, finger off the trigger.
All gun holders will eventually be required to possess the card when armed. The chip will contain the name of the owner, the type of firearm and ammunition held, among other data.
I hope that by the grace of God, by 18th of March, because I have not revised the dates of the moratorium, every licensed firearm holder will have this card.
The National Gun Owners Association members, however, will temporarily be exempted from carrying the card as their case in court against the government continues. The association wants the court to find Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i guilty of usurping the powers and functions of the Firearm Licensing Board. They've also taken issue with the composition of that new board.
And when the police commander, for example, in the region requires you to produce this card because you hold a firearm, you must produce it because this is how we get all the details we need on every firearm, licensed firearm holder.
Currently, there are just about 10,000 licensed civilians, most of them based in Nairobi, some of whom are accused by fellow gun holders and civilians of having misused or abused the privilege of holding a firearm. Several licensed firearm holders have been charged with the misuse of the weapons. Businessman Chris Obure was in December of 2017 charged for threatening to shoot revelers on several occasions. A year before then, Tom Oyua Mboya was arraigned in court to face charges of an attempted murder of William Osewe. Mboya had shot the businessman at Garden Estate within Kasarani Sub-County. In February 2017, then-nominated Senator Paul Njoroge was charged with causing disturbance after using his gun to scare off people who had gone to take over a disputed petrol station. In the incident, Njoroge shot in the direction of then Vivo Energy Managing Director Polycarp Igathe. Another businessman, Charles Kanyi, was charged in court after he fired live rounds of ammunition towards a security guard at the doors of Ridgeway Mall. In March of 2018, controversial businessman Paul Kobia was once again involved in a gun drama, shooting in the air and allegedly abducting a Congolese man in Nairobi. Despite the tough conditions for acquiring a civilian firearm in the country, some individuals with questionable characters have still managed to get licensed. Most of the gun-related cases are yet to be resolved. The fresh vetting of civilian firearm holders is currently underway. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
And top security chiefs in the country are meeting in the wake of the latest security breach by terrorists. The meeting has been called for purpose of sharing an in-depth status update on security. Kevin Mutai reports from Mombasa.
A week after the Nairobi terrorist attack, the country's security chiefs gathered in Mombasa to deliberate on the next steps amid concerns that there may have been lapses prior to the attack.
Hopefully.
This may have been a self-evaluation exercise, but Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i is exuding confidence, saying the search for those behind the attack was bearing fruit.
I am effectively briefed of what the DCI has been doing. I am so satisfied that we are on course to unraveling that matter effectively.
Going forward, security agencies intend to work closely with the media as they seek to enhance relations with the general public.
You need to be in touch with the people on the ground from the media houses and to see how best to interact and provide the information that you will need.
We will be forthcoming and share information as much as possible, and we will work to support you. So we not only want to benefit from the work you do, but we would also like to be supportive to the work that you do.
The Inspector General of Police has reshuffled police commanders in the country as part of the ongoing reforms in the service, and 7 female police commanders unveiled. They include Naomi Ichami, Lea Ngutu, Catherine Mugwe, Lydia Ligami, Beatrice Gashago, Wilkista Vera, and Esther Seronei.
As part of the ongoing reforms and the transformation in the National Police Service, we have made changes that were envisaged in our plan announced by His Excellency the President in September of last year.
Integration of functions, rebranding, renaming, and scrapping of some positions are among the reforms being undertaken in the police service. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed says the government has achieved over 80% transition to secondary schools for those who set their Kenya Certificate of Primary School exams last year. The Cabinet Secretary, who monitored the implementation of the competence-based curriculum in Nakuru, says her ministry is optimistic it will achieve 100% transition by end of January. She did not, however, address the financial constraints that could be keeping the 20% from transitioning to secondary school. NTV has highlighted the plight of several of those exemplary performers, alumni as well as other benefactors, to step in and sponsor their education. This has also added to questions on the management of the constituency bursary funds.
Later, can you sit the way we sit so that you can see me? Sound blue. Are we there? Yeah. Black. Go. Black. Other ones here. We have. Now the next one. These are.
For us right now, I think the most urgent priority is to make sure that we achieve the 100% transition, so that no child is at home who should actually be in class, right? The books are there, they're ready for them, the teachers are ready to teach, and so we want to make sure that everybody is in class learning.
And as the Ministry of Education works to ensure that no child is left behind in the transition from primary to secondary school, the Kiambu community in Nairobi's Mukuru is taking the bull by the horn quite literally. The community, led by the local chief, is undertaking a door-to-door campaign to ensure that no child is left at home while they should be in school. Olive Barrows has the details on this bold initiative.
Operation Door to Door was in full effect. And leading the pack, the Kiambu Assistant Chief, Samson Kainde. The mission to secure school books and uniforms that were out of reach for these two girls after the landlord locked up their home and their mother abandoned them.
Nyumba umefungia watoto na watoto waendi shule, kutoka asubuhi wako hapo wanarandaranda, wamekuja kwa ofisi yangu wameripoti.
Walilala nje.
Kutoka Jumamosi wamelala kwa jirani.
And these are only 2 of the 80 children rescued by the location's education committee.
Kama sasa mzazi kama huyu amewacha watoto kwa nyumba, 1 week haonekani, ajua watoto wanakula nini, na ni wasichana au wawili wakubwa. What do you expect them to do?
Juzi kuna mtoto tumeripia school fees. Alikuwa ameitwa Masi kule Ukabani, mamake akatoroka, shosho naye akamwambia aende kasi ya nyumba, lakini tukamwokoa na bwana chief. Kila kiongozi ambaye ni wa nyumba 10 area ile anasimamia, sisi watu wa Kiambio tuna operation door to door.
An effort made necessary by the scourge of illicit liquor which has torn apart families in the informal settlement.
Unajua hii ni Islam. Mapato ya Islam iko chini. Wazazi wanaenda kufua nguo, wengine wamebreak na wazee wao, wametorokea majukumu. Wazee wengine unakuta wamehama kwa sababu ya shinda, wameashiria watoto.
And following a successful crackdown on Changa dens, the administration has now set its sights on rebuilding efforts, an important part of which the residents testify is safeguarding their children's future.
Tunasikizana na chifu mkubwa, chifu mdogo. Huo watoto wote wale wamemaliza stand 7, wote wawe stand 8, wote wawe wako shule.
The community is sending the message that not only will negligent parenting not be tolerated, but also where 2 or more come together in a shared purpose, a way will be made. Olive Barrows, NTV.
Now, the identity of the 29 Ethiopians who were arrested Sunday still remains a mystery, as their identities are seemingly being concealed by authorities. The 29 were briefly presented at the Madaraka Law Court's premises, but were not presented in court. Eyebrows have been raised over the police's apparent deliberate efforts to ensure the suspects are not caught on camera, right from their arrest in Dandora and later the transfer to Buruburu. The men who were apprehended as they allegedly lacked valid documentation to be in the country. They are to be arraigned tomorrow after today's session failed to happen. Now, the Council of Governors is furious with the Controller of Budget, Reason. She has released a report showing that most governors had not set aside money for development in their first quarter after the election in 2017. Now, Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya says the report is erroneous, arguing that counties did not receive cash from the Treasury on time in the first place. Kennedy Mureithi reports that the governors now want the Controller of Budget to put the record straight.
It is now becoming an all too familiar tune. Each time governors are mentioned in regards to spending in the counties, they have a ready answer. It is not true.
I'm allotted for.
And that is the answer given as a response to a new report by the Controller of Budget detailing how counties spent money in the first quarter after the 2017 elections. The report says a big chunk of money forwarded to counties was used for personal emoluments and little or nothing was set aside for development.
That report is very erroneous, and I think you will be hearing more from the Control of Budget.
As you read that report, which I saw yesterday being discussed, you have to look at the wider macroeconomic factors which are affecting collection of taxes, and therefore the inability of national government to disperse money within the set schedule within that same period.
According to them, there are important nuggets that should have been put into consideration when the report was being prepared. Releasing it as it is, they say, has created a wrong impression, and their political opponents are taking advantage.
The fact that we had just an election the other year, there was delay in disbursement of funds, and the funds started coming in October, when obviously the first quarter was over. The first quarter ends at the end of September. So since the money came in October, there was no expenditure on development the first 3 months.
Kwa hivyo baada ya kuzunguka na kuandika maripoti ya uongo kusema hakuna kazi tumefanya, Treasury watoe pesa. Treasury watupatie sisi county pesa zetu. Si pesa tunaomba, ni ile pesa tumepatiwa na katiba.
Meru Governor Kiraito Moronge, who was officiating development projects in the county in the company of MPs and MCAs, accused the Controller of Budget and her office of concentrating on desk work rather than going to the ground to see projects initiated by the county governments.
Tafadhali tembeeni Meru. Ongeeni na MCA wetu. Wamuonyeshe ile barabara wamefanya na World Development Fund. Tembeeni muone ile maji Bwana Mutuma amechimba Meru hii 100 boreholes kwa mwaka moja. Hiyo si mchezo. Zungukeni muone watoto wakinywa maziwa katika Meru. I think that alone is evidence kwamba tunafanya kazi.
The report by the Controller of Budget says almost all counties had allocated little money for development and large amounts to recurrent expenditure. In some counties, money for recurrent
The governors now want the Controller of Budget to retract her statement and paint a clearer picture of what was happening at that particular time with regards to disbursement of funds to counties. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV in Nairobi County.
All right, and on Opinion Count tonight, we ask, do you believe governors are spending enough funds on development? Do you think governors are spending enough funds on development? Send us your response as a text message to 20686 or tweet us on NTV Kenya. We shall sample some of your views during the course of this live broadcast. Just to ask you again, do you believe governors are spending enough funds on development? We'd like to hear from you. Our Twitter handle is @NTV Kenya, subsequently @Zainab Ismail. The hashtag is NTV Tonight. Now, we are now going to show you an image that is quite curious, and we shall later reveal why. There you have it, a white shawl covering a load on a woman's back. What do you think the woman is carrying on her back? We'd like to also hear your views on the same. Our Twitter handle again is @NTV Kenya, subsequently @Zainab Ismail. We will be revealing to you What it is later on in the bulletin. At this point, though, we are going to take a very short break here on NTV Tonight. When we come back, quite a lot in store for you. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching NTV Tonight. Now, the family of Kennedy Obam, which recently accused popular rap artist Henry Ohanga, alias Octopizzo, of manslaughter, says the autopsy results confirm that their son died as a result of injuries sustained on the head and abdomen. Though it is unclear whether the injuries were as a result of the fall or alleged beating by the musician, the family maintains that the artist bears some responsibility. Charity Mwangi followed the story in Woodley Estate, where some neighbors have denied allegations that the musician was responsible for the death of the 19-year-old.
The green four-story house stands tall amid a major law for the estate it sits in. On the topmost floor, the family of the late Kennedy Obam resides. On the side of the house is a window with 2 panes missing. That is where Kennedy allegedly squeezed his way through to the fall that ended his life. His family associates this unfortunate event to an altercation between their son and Henry Ohanga, a popular musician whose stage name is Octopizzo.
But we were told that he took a blunt object which he hit it, and then this man got disoriented.
According to the neighbors, Octopizzo had accused the young man of having gone into his house, was welcomed into the house by the musician's sister, after which he unexpectedly walked into his bedroom.
Akamuuliza, wewe ni nani? Hakumzungumzia. Unataka nini? Hakuzungumza. Vile walifanyana kutoka huku mpaka nje mimi sijui.
Si wangefungia hapo kwa nyumba alafu waite polisi wakuja wachukue yeye. Eh? Why did he have to punch him or to beat him with a blunt object.
When they walked out of the house, both men appeared upset. However, Kennedy also had a cut around his eyebrow, which the neighbors say could have been from the altercation between the two. Kennedy would then walk a few meters to their flat and up the stairs to the 4th floor. The musician, in his anger, retreated to his house.
Tukasikia nduru moja, tukasikia nduru ya pili, tukaangalia. Mi kuangalia niliona msichana mmoja kwa bacon. Alafu kidogo tu ya hiyo nduru watu wakakusanyika pale.
The family of the late Strathmore University student says that the musician could have handled the situation better. They say that the actions of the boy were out of his normal character, which had prompted them to consult a psychiatrist.
Unajua, vile young men are curious. So we suspect that this curiosity could be the one which made him to go what? Okay?
The family is yet to report the incident to the police, saying that the police had asked them to first get an autopsy done to establish the cause of death. He shared with us the autopsy results, though we did not independently read them.
They're saying that the man died because of the injuries, and part of the injuries which are there, it is in the head, in the abdomen, and the other parts. Okay? He died because of the injuries which are there. That is what they have not read everything.
He says he will share the results with the police and commence the burial arrangements. Kennedy's father says he has forgiven Octopizo, who has only lived there for a month, but he harbors some resentment towards him, more so for his alleged arrogance towards him upon inquiring what happened. Octopizo has refused to comment on the issue, directing NTV to his lawyer.
If he had not moved there, my son could be alive. If he did not hit him here, my son could be still alive.
The community here is yet to recover from the events of last weekend. They, however, say that the truth must prevail because there is no neighbor more important than the other. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
And a weekend swim turned tragic in Muranga after 2 Class 8 pupils from Murai Primary School drowned. The 2 girls, alongside 6 of their friends, had gone swimming in River Kaihungu, with which is located near the school. Their friends' efforts to get help did not bear fruit.
Residents of Kiharu struggled to come to terms with the death of 2 pupils from Murai Primary School. On Sunday, the 2, Belinda Wanjiku and Dorcas Muvinya, went for swimming at River Kahingu with 6 of their friends. At around 6 p.m., it turned tragic. They were overcome by the waters. Their colleagues called for help, but it ended up being a recovery and not a rescue mission. The deaths have been termed as a major blow to the families as well as the school.
Kile ningeomba wazazi tushirikiane kuangalia watoto wetu, na hasa wakati huu ambao tuna msiba huu, tunaomba ushirikiano wa kila mtu, serikali na wanakijiji, tushirikiane tuweze kumaliza kazi ya wanafunzi hawa, tuwape mazishi yanayostahili, kushiriki na watoto wengine wale wako katika darasa la 7, wale wako katika darasa la 8, walikuwa wanasoma na hawa wawili, na hata wale wako katika darasa la 6. Wote tuwapatie matumaini ya maisha.
Elsewhere in Muranga County, a Form 2 student in Kimathi Secondary School in Kigetwini village drowned in Sagana River. His body was retrieved Sunday evening. Former Muranga County Commissioner John Elungata warned residents to be cautious and bar their children from swimming in rivers to prevent more deaths. Helen Aura, NTV.
Now, Tana River Governor Dado Godana now wants the national government to conduct a fresh screening of refugees in camps to ascertain their credentials. Governor Dado says tourism in his county had been affected greatly following the kidnapping of an Italian woman, Silvia Romano.
Katika kipindi hiki ambacho amani imeanza kupatikana kule, ni wakati mzuri kwa wale ambao pengine hawako mbali sana kurudi manyumbani, waanze kujenga upya makao yao na Somalia yao. Hiyo ndio mimi nimesema. Na mimi naomba sana hata nyinyi muzidi kuwatia moyo. Si rahisi, ili waweze kukumbuka nyumbani, waweze kuchukua hatua ya kwenda kujijenga. Wanawapata as Kenyans, ningeomba serikali, national government, izidi kuongeza au ianze mipango ya screening programs, kutambua ni nani halali, nani si halali. Pengine kuna wale wamepata vitambulisho kwa njia ambayo haistahili, basi ifanywe kwa mpango screening, ili hatimaye tujue na tuweze kufanya zile hatua ambazo zipasavyo.
All right, and before we take a very short break here on NTV Tonight, on our opinion question this evening, we did ask you, do you believe governors are spending enough funds on development? And away from that, we also had a very interesting question to ask you. There was an image that should be running right now on your screen, and quite a curious question, quite curious there and peculiar. A woman carrying a load on her back. And we'll be revealing to you what she's carrying and why. There you have it, a white shawl covering a load on the woman's back. And we're asking, what do you think the woman is carrying? We'd like to hear your views. Our Twitter handle is at NTV Kenya, subsequently at Zainab Ismail. And of course, we'll be bringing to you the answer later. And of course, we'll be sampling some of your views on our opinion count later on in the course of this bulletin. But before we take a short break, well, for the very first time on the screens and on NTV Tonight, Julius Amboko will be bringing us all the stories making headlines in the world of business, a new face in business. Thank you so much and welcome to NTV Tonight on the screens. Julius, what do you have for us on our big story this evening on business?
Thank you very much, Zainab. We have an update on the Ekeza Sacco, the troubled Ekeza Sacco, and how long depositors have to wait before they know the fate of their savings with that particular Sacco. This and much more coming up on The Only Name in Business. Welcome to NTV Business. I am Julian Amboko. The European Union has given Kenya a vote of confidence as far as security is concerned. This follows last week's terror attack in Nairobi that in its assessment was adequately responded to, prompting none of its 28 members to issue a travel advisory against the country. According to the first counselor in the EU delegation to Kenya, Walter Triton, Kenya's security agencies proved their ability to handle terror attacks, hence nationals of the EU member states should feel safe when visiting the country. The EU is one of the major sources of tourists and investments for Kenya.
We have been told we went to visit the mountains with the Minister Maingeya, and we were very impressed. A mountain which is not as high as Mount Kenya was generating 67 million tourists. The whole country we are boasting when we get only 2 million. We want to push to see whether we can have at least 1 million tourists visiting Mount Kenya region. The only place where there's a mountain marathon in the world now is in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps. We are working to see whether we can bring mountain marathon to Meru.
Quite a relief there for the country and especially for the tourism sector. Moving on. You have only 4 days left to submit your comments on the 2019 draft budget policy statement. The window for the public to table its views on the document published on January 10, 2019 closes on January 25th, being this Friday. Among its many proposals, the draft statement targets raising an ambitious 2.1 trillion shillings in revenue for the period between July 2019 and June 2020. This comes even as the National Treasury was compelled to revise downwards its revenue projections for the current financial year by 5% to 1.8 trillion shillings, raising the question over the feasibility of the new projections. The public has been invited to share comments by visiting the National Treasury or writing via the email address bps@treasury.go.ke. On to matters savings and deposits. Members of Ekeza Sacco will have to wait until the 21st of February to know the fate of their savings. According to the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Cooperatives, Susan Moshache, this is when the final report on how the troubled Sacco's funds were utilized will be presented to the more than 53,000 members at a special general meeting. Lillian Kiari had a sit-down with the PS and now details the governance challenges that have put the Sacco in trouble.
When Ekeza Sacco members started saving in the organization that was registered 5 years ago, they did not see this coming. The hype to join the Sacco, which placed numerous adverts on various media platforms laced with unbelievably low prices and incentives, was too attractive to miss. But in 2017, when most members were unable to access loans and refunds on their deposits, alarms started ringing. Following numerous complaints, the Commissioner of Cooperatives assessed the Sacco in March 2017 and found out that the owner of Gakuyu Real Estate, Bishop David Ngare, had also engaged in land transactions which had seen Sacco members' funds mixed up. Ekeza Sacco and Gakuyu Real Estate were presenting themselves as one entity, making it difficult for members to distinguish exactly who they were dealing with. The Sacco's internal management structure and its systems overlapped with that of Gakuyu Real Estate. In addition, members demanded refunds because the Sacco did not offer them the expected services. The Ministry of Cooperatives was forced to deregister them on March 2018, but after the Sacco appealed to the High Court, it was allowed to continue its operations provided it fulfilled certain conditions.
We are going to station 2 officers to work at the Sacco office to make sure that the recommendations that we had agreed upon, particularly on the management of the governance issues, are put in place. The other requirement that we had was that they were going to look for money. The directors were going to look for money to inject into the Sacco so that its liquidity position improves.
Although the SACCO was required to dispense all members' savings, which amounted to 424 million shillings to its members, starting with those who had saved 75,000 shillings and below, it has only refunded 116 million shillings to 2,000 members. More members of the SACCO have also come out in public, pushing the amount to over 500 million shillings.
Didn't get the money that they had promised because they were looking for about 400 million to inject into the SACCO. Then we now had to move into a proper inquiry. The cooperatives is a devolved function. So the counties are responsible for the oversight of cooperatives within their jurisdiction. Yes, we are recognizing that Ekeza does have a problem. Surely, I would really urge a member to, evaluate and do their due diligence.
There are currently about 12,000 SACCOs operating in Kenya, which are said to play a significant role in boosting financial savings for the nation's citizens. If your SACCO has not been updated on the website of the SACCO Society's Regulatory Authority or the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives, you should be wary because your SACCO probably has not fulfilled the requirements which are needed for it to be in operation in Kenya. SASTRA currently has about 166 SACCOs which are licensed to operate, listed on their website, while the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives currently has about 4,000 SACCOs which it has listed to be in operation in Kenya. Lillian Kiarie, NTV Business.
A worthwhile insight there on SACCOs from Lillian Kiarie. Moving on to the global landscape. A rise in minimum wages in countries such as Kenya is not enough to lift the masses out of poverty, a new report by Oxfam International now says. In the report, titled Reward Work, Not Wealth, the institution argues that across a number of developing economies, minimum wages are below what is required to survive, placing the spotlight on the rising cost of living. In 2017, the gazetted minimum monthly wage in Kenya's urban centers stood at 17,760 shillings, having grown by 14% from the previous year. The Oxfam report also paints a grim picture regarding the widening global inequality, with 82% of the wealth created in 2018 going to the richest 1% of the world's population.
$2.5 billion every day, while the wealth of the bottom half of humanity, 3.8 billion, was dropping by $500 million a day. This is a trend. It just doesn't happen just once.
Elsewhere, operations at Tata Chemicals Magadi Limited have been interrupted following the onslaught by Kajiado residents with the backing of the county government to have the firm pay hefty land dues that are outstanding. The company has 225,000 acres under its control, whose land rates the county government now wants paid retrospectively. The company, formerly known as Magadi Soda Company, is Africa's largest soda ash manufacturer and has been part of Tata Chemicals since the year 2005.
They are supposed to pay rent or lease fee to the county government. The amount due to the government is 17 billion, in which the county government has made a demand towards the same. The people of Magadi has also expressed their concern that the only river they have has been boxed into a pipeline by Magadi Water, which the company is not paying rates for the same. We are saying it is not possible for an ordinary person to pay for water, and a company the size of Tata Magadi Soda is not paying for the same water. Henceforth, the county government will meter the line leading to Magadi and demand for payment for the same.
And that wraps our business bulletin tonight. I'm Julian Samboko. Let's do this again tomorrow, same time.
right, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, a fresh promise to regulate youth-serving organizations has been made with the National Youth Council appointment of a new chief executive officer. Roy Sasaka Telewa takes over at the helm of the NYC, where his entree also includes putting together intergenerational dialogue forums, county youth engagement forums, as well as finalization and implementation of the National Youth Policy. Fatuma Babakar, the chairperson of the council, says Sasaka emerged as the most suitable candidate after a very rigorous recruitment. The CEO has promised to continue with the positive strides that had been made by the council.
Niaje, want to invest in a biashara that will take your hustle to the next level?
Making headlines in the world of sports. Ida Waringa will be bringing that to us. Ida, what do we have today?
Thanks, Zain. Hoping you've had a good start to your week. Now, let's get into the world of sport. Kenyan champions Gor Mahia have been drawn in Group D of the 2019 CAF Confederations Cup in a draw held in Cairo, Egypt. The tough group consists of Hussein Dey of Algeria, Angolan side Petro Atletico, and Egyptian giants Zamalek. Kogalo will host the five-time African champion Zamalek in their opening group game on February 3rd before visiting Angolan side Petro Atletico in their second match on February 13th. The third round will see the 17-time KPL champions welcome Algerian outfit Hussein Dey on February 24th and then travel to the North African country to play the side on March 3rd. Their away trip to Zamalek will be on March 10th before the final round on March 17th against Petro Atletico of Angola, while the top two teams in each group will advance to the quarterfinals. All the best there to Kogalo. Let's move on. Kenyan teams intensified their training ahead of the third edition of the SportPesa Cup that will see them face top teams from Tanzania starting Tuesday in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Well, debutants Bandari play Tanzanian side Singida United before Tanzanian giants Young Africans aka Yanga square it out with SportPesa Shield winners Kariobangi Sharks in the second fixture. Defending champions Gor Mahia will face Mwanza-based Mbao FC on Wednesday as they launch their assault for a third successive crown on the same day that Medica Gary Simba will be up against AFC Leopards. The winner of the annual 8-team regional knockout tournament, who bags 3 million shillings in prize money, will have the privilege to host 9-time English Premier League champions Everton in their home country for a friendly match. Still on matters football, Nation FC is among 48 teams who will battle for a ticket to Liverpool UK in this year's Standard Chartered Bank's Road to Anfield football tournament set for March 2nd at St. Mary's School. Nation FC was eliminated at the quarter-final stage after edging rivals Standard Group 1-0 in the last 16. Wananchi Group beat Lestego 3-0 to lift the 28th edition, but were knocked out in the quarters after losing 2-1 to Hong Kong in the World Finals in Anfield. While at Merseyside, the winning team will represent Kenya at the Global Standard Chartered Trophy Finals to be staged at the 54,000 capacity Anfield Stadium on May 17th. In addition, they will also attend an EPL match at Liverpool's Anfield, as well as benefit from a professional training session with Reds legend John Barnes and various coaches in preparation for the tournament.
This year, the Standard Chartered Trophy 2019 will be preceded by the Liverpool Football Club World Tour event. This is a 2-day fun experience that will see the creation of a Liverpool Football Club World Hub at St. Mary's School in Nairobi from the 23rd to the 24th of February 2019.
Moving away from football, newly appointed KCB women's volleyball team coach Japheth Munala led his team as they intensified training at the Ruaraka Sports Club ahead of the Africa Women's Volleyball Championship set to be held in Cairo, Egypt in March. 6 players switched from Pipeline to KCB and have had time to gel with the rest of the KCB players. Those players include Noel Murambi, Leonida Kasaya, Violet Makuto, Veronica Kilabat, Christine Jambi, Trufosa Chepkemei, and Jemima Siangu. KCB players have been undergoing strength and conditioning training for the past 2 weeks. Egypt Volleyball Federation will host this year's Africa Volleyball Clubs Championships in the city of Cairo. Qualified teams are expected to register before 11th February 2019.
7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4.
We need to work on our reception. That's a major thing in the club championship. That's the major thing that we're going to do in our practices when we start full blast volleyball training. So we are going to dwell on service reception. That's the big area that we must work on. Then we come to attack. Then our backcourt defense and net defense must also coordinate and work properly. So those are areas that I'm going to deal with before the club championship.
Well, lots of tennis action earlier today. Well, number 1 Novak Djokovic reached the Australian Open quarterfinals for the first time since 2016 with a hard-fought 6-4, 6-7, 6-2, 6-3 win over 15th seed Daniil Medvedev. 6-time champion Djokovic will play Kei Nishikori in the last 8. Had a bad opening day as Raymond Odor went down to Thibaut Gabile of France 6-love, 6-2. Edmond Nyabwari lost to Lusa Pardelli 6-3, 6-love. Angela Okutoi fell to Habiba Farouk of Egypt, while Wycliffe Okenye was knocked out by Frank Tayebwa. The tournament has attracted 85 players from 25 countries. The tournament enables players aged between 13 and 18 years to accrue important ranking points that give them ITF World Ranking. Great stuff. And finally, in our moment of the weekend, Gor Mahia advanced to the CAF Confederation Cup group stage where they have been drawn in a tough Group D, as we earlier said. Now this after the Kenyan champions held New Stars de Douala of Cameroon to qualify 2-1 on aggregate. The players celebrated their qualification that guarantees Kogalo 27 million shillings for operation in the group stage matches by chanting songs of praise. Check it out. Good stuff. Hopefully the first of many celebrations for Kogalo in this season's CAF Confederations Cup. Zane, back to you.
And of course, we'll be taking a look at other matches that are supposed to be played tomorrow.
Definitely. Lots happening in the world of sports, so we will be sure to continue updating you.
Okay, definitely. Now remember, tonight on our opinion count, we asked you, do you believe governors are spending enough funds on development? Do you believe governors are spending enough funds on development? And I'm just going to sample some of the views on Twitter. We have at Frederick Cavo saying governors rarely spend county funds on development, and if they do, the various projects are for creating opportunities for them to loot. More funds are mismanaged. Here we have at Joel Getui saying they are not blinding us by bringing graders, making our roads more impassable and muddy in the name of tarmacking it. Waited for years on end. Agriculture down. They should remember it takes money to make money. Invest in infrastructural development and reap big as some other counties. We also have at Silvano Njeru saying no, most of them have got nothing to show. All they have are bad roads and poor services. At Larry Kipps saying most of the governors don't even understand how the citizens in their counties suffer over economic crisis. The same governor wants more money to be devolved, but they can't be accountable with what they have at the moment. At Gitau Jr., no, most of the funds end up in corruption and recurrent expenditure. At Frederick Cavo again, saying governors, of course, we've read that. And lastly, but no least, at Bildad Kachula saying no, because the structures and projects are stagnated and take long to be completed. And sometimes, when completed, are of poor quality. This shows play of cards. Well, that is your opinion tonight on our opinion count here at NTV. Tonight, we did ask you to believe governors are spending enough funds on development. And away from that rather, we showed you this image of a woman. Let's see, there you have it. This is the woman who we did ask you, what do you believe they have carrying on their load? And before I reveal this image to you, or what she's carrying, I'll just take a little bit of feedback from you on what you believe. At Matthew saying, I am watching from Kayole. Bravo guys, I think the lady is carrying illicit brew, in brackets changa. At Frederick saying, this mother is carrying a baby on her back, or she's carrying a kiondo, but she's trying to hide what she's carrying, pretending to be carrying a small baby. At Pishtash saying the woman is carrying a baby, according to me. At Gitau, she's probably a cannabis farmer. Finally, at Young Pish saying tune from Rongai, the woman seems to be carrying a baby. Well, this is the reveal. They say having a baby gives you a high, but a high is different here. She is carrying millions of shillings worth of bang. Yes, that's not a baby, it's bang, also known as weed. There you have it. Well, you never know what some people might be carrying. And this is where we close our bulletin this evening. Thank you so much for making the time for us. Press Plus is coming right up your way with Mark Masai. They will be discussing on how the media has performed in terms of reporting on the terror attack that happened at the Riverside District 2. You do not want to miss that. Our sign language interpreter this evening was David Agondoa, and my name is Zainab Ismail. Good evening.